Okay, y'all, so today is the day of my book club, but the book that we're discussing today, I wasn't feeling it like that. Like, it had good parts that I did enjoy, but overall as a book, I really wasn't feeling it that much. So I thought this is a good opportunity to do like a vlog style video with some books that I recently read that I just wasn't feeling that much. Let's get into it. Okay, so the first book that I really wasn't feeling that much, it wasn't like the world's worst book, it wasn't terrible, it just wasn't doing it for me all the way, is the one that we're going to the book club for, which is Before We Were Yours by Wingate. So this book has two narrators. It has Real and Avery. So Real is the throwback voice that we're gonna say we going with right now. But anyways, Real goes through her life like as a little girl growing up on a shanty boat in Memphis, I believe, and just what that life was like first on the shanty boat and then kind of being ripped away from that to go to this orphanage, this real shady orphanage. That voice and story was great. I think the overall idea of this book was great. Like, I loved hearing Real's voice. I loved hearing what she went through. It felt really like jerking. It was good. Like, I felt like that part of the book, because it goes back and forth between Real's perspective and Avery's perspective, which I'll get to. I really enjoyed Real's perspective. Now, Avery, hers is decades later. She is the most annoying narrator, period. She's so unrelatable. She's trying to solve this mystery on like why her grandma had this envelope to be picked up and who these orphans were and how all the stories connect and what that means for her. But what I didn't like about Avery's perspective is it was really self-centered. It was very much like she was annoying to me. Like, I was reading through Avery's part quick because I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear what Avery had to say. Real, it felt like captivating. Like, you wanted to hear more about the story. You wanted to hear more about her family, her siblings. Sorry, it stopped recording, but yeah, I found myself wanting to hear more about Real's story and much less about Avery's story. She was so pretentious and self-righteous to the point where it was like, girl, we don't care. We truly don't care. So that's what was annoying to me about this book. And honestly, I feel like if the whole thing was written in Real's perspective, I would have liked it. Like, it would have probably been a 4.5 out of 5 star to me. Because again, the subject matter was interesting. I didn't know anything about this Tennessee orphanage. It's based on a true story, this actual orphanage and everything, and how the lady who was running it, she changed the public perception of orphans. Like, it was kids that you didn't really want. They were, trouble, this and this and that. But she was essentially stealing, or what she thought was procuring, like the proper orphans to be adopted. Blonde hair, blue eyes, curly, bouncy hair. Like, she was lying to these people about how they come from these amazing backgrounds and their parents educated and this and that. She changed, in a way, the public perception of orphans at the time to make people want to adopt. It was janky. It was illegal what she was doing. So many things wrong with it. But I thought that portion of it was interesting, and I wanted to hear more about it. I didn't care about what Avery had going on. I didn't care about her career. I didn't care about the political space between her and her dad and what that meant. It felt unnecessary to me, and it added, I think it seemed like the author Lisa Wingate wanted to add like complexity and something interesting to it instead of just telling like a linear story. Which that part I can appreciate, but like, I didn't need that. Apparently other people disagree, because I went and looked at the reviews, like the 5-star reviews when I was done, and a lot of people ate that up. could have left Avery out of this. I don't care about her. I don't care about her love interest, her marriage, or lack thereof. I didn't care. Just didn't care. But I'm going to a book club to discuss it. I wouldn't say it was trash because I really enjoy a lot of parts of it. Just not, just not that. Like, cut one narrator off and I'm good. That's me. What else we gonna talk about? Hold on. This one hurt. So, the next book that I didn't really like, this hurt. Because, let me tell you why. Before I tell you the book, I'm gonna tell you why it hurt. I went in expecting it to be great. I expected to love it before I even opened it. Because I read Tia Williams' other book, A Love Song for Ricky Wild, and I really liked it. I did a review on that. And I just assumed because everybody was like, if you like this, you'll love 7 Days in June. That's the book. If you like this, you'll love 7 Days in June. It's so good. You probably should have read it first. It's like, it's equally as good. So, I almost DNF'd this book. I almost stopped reading. When I got to the 10th chapter, I was like, okay, like, this is getting good. Yeah, 10 chapters in, I was like, this is getting good. I'm not rolling my eyes no more. Okay, so I'm reading it. Then it gets to another part where I'm like, it's back to being super annoying, back to being super slow, super like unrealistic. And when I say unrealistic, I don't even mean like to me in the real world, even though that's what I said. I mean like for the characters that was written, it didn't make sense to me. Like these are grown men. So Shane and what's her name? Eva. Those are the two main characters. And they spent this crazy drug-induced like lustful in love session with each other for a week, 7 days in June when they were in high school. Well, that ended crazily. And then they saw each other again 15 years later and they spent another week together, 7 days in June. And to me, it just wasn't like connecting. Like, I have no issues with the instant love, especially in high school, because I feel like so much stuff happens so quickly. Like, it is realistic for you to fall head over heels in high school for somebody you spent every day with for a week. Like, I get that. That wasn't what threw me off. It was the adult version of them that threw me off. Like, it's like the maturity that I wanted to be there with them wasn't there. I was super annoyed because you're a grown man and you can't pick up your phone and make a call. Even in the midst of a crisis, you're a grown man and can't pick up his phone and make a call. That's wild to me. And then you're a grown woman who knows that you have misplaced blame and you still keep saying the same things. And then you're a grown man, Shane, who you also have misplaced blame and you like, oh, maybe that is true. Like, okay, like at some point, you gotta get somewhere. Like, you're grown. You're literally grown. So part of this was like, and then it was so, their love seemed like it started off immature, which was fine to me. But it didn't really mature into anything else. And it was these like reactionary exchanges, these like whimsical, and there's nothing wrong being whimsical at your age, but like to the point of it just doesn't make sense. Like, bro, say what you mean and mean what you say. Y'all grown. That annoyed me. Overall, it had some good parts in there that I liked though. Like, some portions were written so nicely where I was like, okay, this is why I didn't DNF this. And then it went right back to why I was like, I should DNF this. But by then I was too far into the book. I'm like, whatever, we're just gonna keep rolling with it. So I was underwhelmed, disappointed. Eva as a character was semi-relatable, still like to be so mature. She was still so childish at times. I just was like, whatever. But she was semi-relatable. The side characters in this book were underwhelming as well, especially compared to Tia's other book, A Love Song for Ricky Loud, where those supporting characters were like really well developed, interesting, like likable. These characters they fell flat for me. Outside of her daughter Audrey, who was very unlikable to me. I can't stand a bratty kid in a book. I'm sorry. That's my personal thing. She was very unlikable, but she was well developed. So you did get to see like a lot of different angles of her. Her mom's relationship to her was it fell flat for me too, but Audrey was developed as a supporting character. Unlike every other supporting character in this book, where they were just thrown in there. Like they were mentioned here and there, but they were pretty one-dimensional. Especially her friend, I think her name was Cece. It was just stereotypical in a lot of ways that I didn't appreciate. Then another thing that bugged me in this book was I don't think Tia gave us, her readers, enough credit to like put together dots. So it annoys me when it's something that is said in a book that you're supposed to get because it has a relation to something that was said earlier in this same book. And then you go explain what it is. It's like telling a joke and then explaining a joke. Like, I get it. So that kind of annoyed me. She did that a few times where I'm like, I understand the relevance of this statement. Like, you don't have to then say, this is the relevance of this statement. Like, I got it. That kind of annoyed me too. And again, different strokes for different folks. It annoyed me. You might love it. A lot of people did love it. A lot of people recommended this book to me. As with every other book that I'm gonna review in this book. In this video. All of these books have amazing 5-star reviews from people that are like, I recommend this every time I can. But to me, it's just not for me. And this one, 7 Days in June, it fell flat. It was underwhelming. I was annoyed 75% of the book. And that's just me. People love it. You might love it. If you read it, let me know. One thing I can say, and I try really hard to not judge the current book I'm reading by the previous book's standard. So for instance, the last book I read was Demon Copperhead. That was a 5-star review. It was, a 5-star book. Amazing. Like, you went on a journey and you were in that. It was written so nicely. Like, everything was so good. I'm gonna do a separate video on that. Still kind of processing it. That's why I haven't done it yet. But the next book I read was 7 Days in June, where they touched on a similar, they both touched on addiction, kind of, like not in the same way, but they both had like themes of addiction. And the way that it was written in June, like 7 Days in June, it just wasn't it. Like, especially after how I saw, like how I just experienced that it could be written, it just wasn't it. But I also try to like make this book stand by itself and like judge it on its own merit. And even then, with everything else that was going on in it, I was still underwhelmed. Yes, sorry y'all, my kid is here. What's up? Oh, making a video. Okay. Anyways, I love you. Anyways, yes, let's get to the next book. Wait, before I go to the next book, let me say this. Something that I did want to mention about 7 Days in June. My favorite part about the book was that familiar feeling. So let me explain. It's something strong and powerful and just comforting about knowing somebody and them knowing you and you don't have to explain. Like, I don't have to tell you about my life because you already know. you've lived a part of it with me. Like you've seen this over time, or you know a part of me that other people don't know. I don't have to tell you this and create this scene or story for you because you already know. Like you've already seen me at a vulnerable place that nobody else has, and that can't be explained. So like that part of the story I really like, because I feel like that, well, I could say that they were trauma bonding in this book, and maybe that's it, but it's not always trauma bonding, and it's not always a negative thing. Sometimes it's just like, you know me, I don't have to explain, I don't have to I can put my guard down, I don't have to answer 30 questions about this, and that, because you already know. Like you can look at me and already see what's going on. That is beautiful to me, and I love seeing that type of stuff, because I have a few people in my life that are like that. Like, nah, that made me feel like, yeah, I can relate to that, because like it's something about it. You just I don't have to explain, I don't have to put on airs, I don't gotta be this way, I don't have to hide. Like I can literally show up and be like, this is me, and you've seen it and you accept it and you love it, and I know that. Like that's something to like bask in. So I can say that was my favorite part about this book. Everything else, it is what it is. Next, The Secret Life of Church Ladies by Deesha Philyaw. If this book wasn't so short, I would have DNF'd it. I actually would have stopped reading this, but I saw it through because it was a quick read, but I wouldn't have it. Like if it was 100 pages longer, I would have put it down, but I saw it through. This book, I don't know what I was expecting. I feel like this is where I was just taking like advice from Instagram and Facebook about which book to read, which book is worth it, like, and this is the one that I decided to read. And it was so, again, stereotypical. I feel like if you just go survey like 10 churches, and then ask like, what's some stereotypes that people have about church ladies, they would probably say these things. And I've been to plenty of churches, so I've seen like, yeah, okay, I get it, but like, it was too stereotypical to the point where it's like, okay, like I'm having a hard time enjoying it because this is a lot. And I didn't necessarily like the writing style either. It wasn't bad, just wasn't my style. Just overall, I flew through it because I wanted to be done with it. But let me talk about what I liked about the book. It explored the feminine woman in a church setting versus non. It explored a lot of social topics that I thought there was a missed opportunity there, because it could have went another way to really like delve into some of the like social topics that she talked about, but it didn't. But it did have a hint of those, which I enjoyed. It talked about how race, sexuality, religion kind of intersects, the intersectionality of that and what that looks like, especially in people living today. Again, not in a way that resonated with me, but apparently a lot of other people liked it. And I like that it was concise. Like, it was to the point. It wasn't a whole lot of like, I say concise, but there were some parts where it's like, okay, this little piece is dragging. Like, how many times do we need to know about XYZ? I don't even know. That's what I liked about it, and everything else about it I didn't like. It's not for me. A lot of people liked it, and I could see why. It was like drama filled. It did touch on some like difficult topics to talk about. Skated over the surface of it, but at least it talked about it. And yeah, I can see like why people like it, but it's just not for me. I think I really just didn't like the writing style. So everything that was talked about, it could have been spun in a way that I would have liked it more. But not every author is for every person. Not every book is for every person. And I'm just not the target audience. A lot of people are. Just not me. Would I read other books from Miss Deesha? Yeah, I would. Or I don't know if she go by Miss, but would I read other books by this author? Yeah, I would. This one just wasn't it. So I need to go back to kind of tell you what the book is about anyways. This book follows the lives of multiple women who are involved in the church somehow. It's short stories and they all kind of form this cohesive tale or this book overall. And I like that idea. I like short stories. I like essay type books, but this wasn't it for me. The next one, let me read out the full title so I can get this right and hate correctly. The 5 Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace, Empowering Organizations by Encouraging People by Gary Chapman. I wasted my time reading this book. So let me give you a backstory. This is the same author that wrote The 5 Love Languages. So I'm like, yes, like I love that book. Like this book is top tier if you into that kind of stuff. I liked it. I think it was well done. And I'm at work and my boss or my manager, he recommended this book. He was like, yeah, it's by the same author that wrote 5 Love Languages, and it kind of helps him as a manager understand like how to relate to his team and appreciate his team and what everybody looks for, and kind of change up his managerial style based on who he's interacting with. And he was like, I think you would like it. Like, you could probably get some stuff from it too. He recommended it to us. I think me and some other people. But I'm like, okay. Like that. Like, yeah, I'll check that out. That sounds cool because maybe it'll help me be able to relate to people I work with better when I have to delegate tasks. Like, how can I do that more efficiently? How can I show appreciation when things are being done? How can I kind of give constructive criticism when needed? And then when I'm mentoring, like the interns that come in, how can I show them appreciation and be the type of leader that they need? So I'm like, yeah, let me read this book. I feel like Mr. Chapman or Dr. Chapman, I'm not sure. I feel like this author took the 5 love languages, smacked them into this book, and changed out love with like workplace and appreciation. And instead of romance terms or relationship terms, he used like more co-worker terms. That's what it felt like. It felt like this wasn't even his own separate book to me. I felt like he could have never wrote this book and said, read the 5 love languages and apply it to work, because that's what it was. I was expecting new ideas and like different perspectives that was totally like maybe built on the same framework as the 5 love languages, but still different. Like its own separate book, its own standalone entity. And it wasn't that. To me, I was like, I could have never read this. I could have read something worth my time. That's how I felt about this book. This is the only book on this list where I felt like I got nothing from it. I honestly felt like because I read the 5 love languages, I got nothing from this book. Now, if I didn't read the 5 love languages, I would have gotten something from this book because it was helpful in the same way that the 5 love languages was helpful. Like it's common sense that everybody wants to be related to differently. Like you understand that you have to approach people differently based on who they are. everybody has different preferences, everybody has different styles, like working styles and conversation styles and communication styles and things like that. Like, you know that. And that's where the buck stops with this book. It was so like useless for me, to the point where it was just like, if a person likes to, you know, spend quality time, then you should spend quality time with them. Really? Okay. If a person likes to words of affirmation, you should say, wow, Jim, you really helped me do XYZ. You should provide words of affirmation. If a person likes water, give them water. Like, that's what this book was to me, and I was so disappointed. I was like, thanks. Like, I read it. Check. Let's add that to my Goodreads. Like, read and go. That's the only benefit I got from this book is adding it to my Goodreads read and go. Sorry to this man. The last book, the fifth book of this is called, let me get the whole title, Our Kind of People Inside America's Black Upper Class by Lawrence Otis Graham. So this book follows the black upper class throughout like the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, whatever. Maybe not that early, but anyways, around that time it follows them. And it talks a lot about things that, like, groups that they're in, secret memberships, or secret, but like just unattainable memberships for your everyday person, how they came into making all of this money, generational wealth of these black upper class families, like the ways that they, I guess, convene, how they relate to each other, places that they vacation, schools that they might attend, how they kind of rear their children, things like that. At first, I was very, very, very interested in this book. It started off great to me. Like, I already knew about things like the paper bag test and the straight ruler test and things like that, and how colorism affected black people during this time, especially when they related it to things like class, things like that. So I was real interested in the beginning, learning about these extremely wealthy black families and what they were going through, especially like them, their kids, where the money came from, how they live their everyday lives. Like, it was so cool to me to take like that blast in the past, do a blast from the past, whatever, and learn about these families and these different circles. Like, learning about the links and girlfriends and all this stuff. It was really interesting to me. The first 20% of the book, I liked it. Then it got very, 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 very repetitive. Very. Like, it almost was like the author was a part of this group of people he was talking about, but also at the same time on the outside of this group he was talking about. So like, I enjoyed it, learning about his perspective of what schools they should go to, and going to a PWI versus a HBCU, and then like all the stuff that goes into that. Like, it was interesting. And then the same story just kept getting recycled. And I'm like, okay, how much can we talk about the same cities, the same sororities, the same fraternities, like Greek life over and over. Greek life over and over. How much are we gonna talk about the same thing? It got redundant. And you could kind of sense his bitterness in some parts of it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like, sometimes, you know, it is what it is. But to me, like, if this was, I don't know, I enjoyed the first 20-ish% of the book, and after that I was just like, let's get her done. Like, okay, all right, if I hear Jack and Jill one more time, like, I got it. So to me, that was my experience. I'm actually glad I read this book because it was interesting. I learned a lot of stuff. Like I even learned about Mr. Day, bringing a day bed to America. Like that was interesting. Stuff that I just didn't know about, I found interesting and useful. So I am glad I read this book because there was a lot to be learned. But as far as like enjoyability, it tapered off after that 20% mark for me. So thank y'all. I'm gonna pick y'all back up when we get in the car just to kind of talk to y'all a little bit more since this is a vlog style video. But those are the 5 reads that came highly recommended that just wasn't it for me. Okay, y'all, I just made it to the location. I feel like everybody come with their pretty books and then you got me that comes with my Kindle. But here we go. Quick update, just finished my book club meeting and almost everybody liked Avery and her version of the story or her like narrational portion except me. So that's interesting, and that's a good part again about being in a book club. A lot of different perspectives, a lot of different people and their different opinions, and it's just cool to hear what other people have to say. I still stand by, I can't stand Avery's perspective or narration period, but they liked it. All right, y'all, if you've read it, let me know in the comments what you think about this book, Before We Were Yours, and all the other books. All right, see ya.